right, and welcome back to another episode of JR Takes. As always, Ryan and I coming at you with the latest Seattle and NFL news. And post-draft, you guys might have saw our first ever live stream on the draft about a week and a half ago, and
which was a resounding success, by the way. And thank you to all those that hung out with us for a few hours there. We had at least like 15 people for a few hours straight.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. A way bigger turnout than I ever would have expected, honestly.
I was expecting 0 viewers, so we had infinitely more than I thought.
Colby's brothers showed up. Shout out to them. Thanks for popping in. That was fun hanging out. But more importantly, Ryan and I, with our expertise,
we did pretty good.
We did.
Probably our most accurate predictions to date for a draft, I would say.
7 of the 8 first picks we got correct, or 7 of the 9 first picks we got correct, and then the rest we didn't get correct at all. But a lot of the picks kind of went according to how they actually went, just a draft pick earlier. Mm-hmm. Like Latu, we had going to the Saints, and he went to the Colts, a pick right after that. So
yeah, really weird that no defensive players were picked for the first 14 picks. Like honestly, the Falcons kind of threw everyone in the world off with Michael Penix.
Well, yeah, the Falcons certainly win the biggest head explosion pick of the draft, because obviously signing Kirk Cousins to that 4-year deal, it was structured in such a way, I heard too, where they can't even trading him becomes a non-factor because he's not getting guaranteed salary money, which I guess that just means that a team will take on your contract if you were to get traded to that team. I don't know the exact details of the whole thing, but they basically screwed themselves.
It seems like at a minimum they're paying him for 2 years, like $50 million a year.
Well, and did you see the report that they only met with Michael Penix for less than an hour, and they were like, "We need to draft this guy."
They were like, "Holy shit, this guy's left-handed. We gotta get him."
Yeah,
they just thought it was
another
cool.
left-handed Michael.
Dogs in the area are panicking. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, it was a really fun live stream, and really probably the most exciting draft that we've watched in a while, I feel like, because there were just a lot of surprising moves, like J.C. Latham going really early. Mm-hmm. And for the Seahawks pick, it was really exciting because I wanted us to either get an offensive lineman or a defensive player, mm-hmm. really any defensive player, considering how bad the defense has been. And we're sitting there at 16 with our choice of any defensive lineman we want, basically. Mm-hmm. We could have taken Dallas Turner. We could have taken Chop Robinson or Jared Verse. And our pick, Fontenot, was there as well. Mm-hmm. I did hear in the last week leading up to the draft that Fontenot has maybe some medical concerns, though. And so when I heard that, I was a little less set on him being the pick.
Same. I think that I heard that after we did our mock draft even. So same, yeah. I think I might have made that pick a little differently obviously hindsight's 20/20, but still, it did raise a red flag because the first person I thought of was Abraham Lucas.
Yeah.
He's been having knee issues since we pretty much got him. And he's been awesome when he's been healthy, but we don't need a part 2 of that.
It's not exactly solving our problem. Yeah.
So might as well draft a guy where we've been weak for the past half decade.
And it makes our signing of George Fant make a lot more sense too, because he can play guard, he can slide in and be a pretty good right tackle for us. So mm-hmm. I really like him as our insurance policy for Abraham Lucas, who I hear is looking pretty likely to be healthy for the season. Anyways,
let's hope so. I feel like if we can just get our 2 tackles healthy now that we have our new guard on the team out of UConn, sky could be the limit for this offensive line. That's what you want in an offensive line, is for them to grow together. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm excited. We'll see if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, and I think it just really speaks to the fact that we are building the core of this team. And John Schneider's been doing this for the last 3 drafts, I would say, since 2022. Mm-hmm. Because we're getting the big guys. It's exactly what I wanted. It's what this team needed. And our offensive line, depending on how the starter camp battle shakes out, we could have an entire offensive line of players that are either rookies, second-year, or third-year players, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about Christian Hayes post-draft, but the player notes I did read on him made me extremely excited. And I heard a couple interviews with him, how he was saying, I'm pretty sure it was him and not the guy out of Finley, but I think it was Christian Hayes that said he just likes to move people from point A to. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, because he's basically the mauler of the linemen we took, and that just, I don't know. I like the confidence going into the league, and yeah, we haven't really had that position figured out for quite some time now, and I'm just excited to finally draft someone there that we can potentially rely on to be a starter.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been since we were contending for a Super Bowl that we had a good interior offensive line, a good offensive line in general. So very, very happy with the moves there. But I guess just backing up a little bit, what was your reaction to taking Byron Murphy 16 overall?
To paint the picture of, we just had witnessed the first time ever that 14 straight players were offensive players taken in the draft. I was like, okay, yeah, I like that pick. I like kind of was forced to like it. I mean, I love the pick, but like that's what we should have done. So yeah, I loved it. I would give it a B+, I would say, because I have been hearing things post drafting Byron Murphy that, you know, he's not a game wrecker, if you will, but he's a very solid player, can stop the run, and I'm also kind of excited that he was a Seahawks fan growing up.
Yeah, that is cool.
So, or maybe, I don't know. He mentioned he loved the LOB and all those guys. So I'm excited to see the physicality coming from him. But yeah, I think just given the nature of all of the offensive players were gone and we had our chance at the top, we could have taken Dallas Turner and we chose Byron Murphy. So I was stoked. I would say B+ for me as far as my happy meter and my grade overall. What about you?
When we took him, I was just floored that Dallas Turner was still available, and I was hoping in the moment that would be the pick. He was wearing a green suit too, so
yeah.
If you watched the live stream, you might have thought I was disappointed. I hadn't really thought we were going to take a defensive lineman in the first round, so I hadn't spent that much time looking into Byron Murphy or Johnny Newton.
We had just brought up too that we kind of made a lot of off-season signings with the D-line and re-signing Leonard Williams. So yeah, I get what you're saying there.
Yeah, so I guess in the moment I was a little surprised, but the more I've learned about Byron Murphy since we drafted him, I'm really, really excited that we got him, because I think he was clearly the best interior defensive lineman in this draft and probably would have gone a lot higher in last year's draft. I think this was just a really loaded offensive draft, especially for tackles, quarterbacks, and receivers, and those are three of the most premium positions in today's NFL. So obviously those guys go early. Even if, as a pure football player, maybe they're not as good as like a Byron Murphy is. But, yeah, one of the better pure defensive interior linemen in the last couple of draft classes. Like he's not Jalen Carter just in terms of like being a freak of nature prospect. But the one knock on him is he's a shorter, stouter guy, but so was Aaron Donald. So yeah. I don't really consider that to be a knock, honestly. I think that really can help guys with the leverage battle because I remember playing against guys like Marshad in junior high. No one's going to know who I'm talking about on the podcast. But anyways, guys that are really short and stout, you cannot move them.
Yeah.
You cannot get lower than them. And when you're like a 6'8" offensive lineman and this 6'1" guy with like just Superman arms is like getting up in your like stomach and chest there, like that's hard to deal with. And something Byron Murphy would do at Texas that was really kind of crazy is he would almost just like bear crawl into guys getting so low to the ground, and they just could not stop it. Like it was
like the reverse of the tush push.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. What I really like about him is right now he will slide in and be a solid, good starter in the league. People compare him to Grady Jarrett. But with his athleticism, who knows how good he could get. And we don't know much about Mike McDonald just yet, but the one thing that we do know about him is he's done great with his defenses and coaching up players above what you had seen previous to him wherever he's gone. So if you can continue that with someone like Byron Murphy, he could become like a Pro Bowl, perennial Pro Bowl caliber player. I think he has the talent. And another thing that I think for me makes the pick an A is just something I learned recently that I just never really thought about was good interior defensive linemen. They just do not hit free agency. They get like look at Chris Jones on the Chiefs. He's never going to hit free agency unless he's like 37. So it's really hard. It's way harder to get a top tier defensive lineman, especially on a rookie contract, than it is like most other positions, period.
Well, yeah, and I don't think it's just what you're seeing is like that's why so many teams have a hard time paying elite or top tier wide receivers is because they're a dime a dozen. So, yeah, you're totally right about the interior linemen. I'm kind of surprised that, that the Broncos had let why am I blanking on his name? The tackle we signed.
Oh, Draymond Jones?
Yeah. Like, it was kind of shocking that he got to hit the open market. Well,
I think Byron Murphy is already going to be a better player than Draymond Jones because he's a way better run defender. But Draymond Jones is like a pass rushing specialist interior defensive lineman. So
one thing that I have been hearing a lot about Byron Murphy is he's a pretty high character guy. And that's kind of a relief given the past D linemen we've drafted, like Malik fucking McDowell.
Mr. Quad Bike.
Yeah.
Mr. Sand Dunes.
Yeah, so hearing that made me confident in the fact that we won't be getting a part 2 of that with this defensive lineman. And the guy, I forget his name, the other lineman that got a DUI on like a Sunday at 3 in the afternoon that played for Texas.
Yeah, Devondre Sweat.
Yeah, Devondre Sweat.
Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, and you're like 300-something pounds. You have to drink so much alcohol to get a DUI.
Think of how many beers he had or shots he had to drink to be that drunk.
Okay, do you guys think it was a carryover from the night before and he drank more when he woke up, or do you think he just got shit-faced when he woke up?
I don't know. If it's
funny
the latter,
thing that you're
that's not good.
Colby, is there were probably so many general managers that sat down with a bunch of other scouts and were like asking that exact same question.
But and I forget where he fell. It might have been the second or third round.
The Titans. He went to the Titans.
Was it round 2 or?
Yes.
Okay.
All he has to do is not do like rookies that get drafted into the NFL. It's like, okay, just don't fuck up, but you see it every single year. They just fuck up, or someone does.
Yeah, it's kind of uncanny. Like, you remember the lineman that had the bong mask?
Oh yeah, that was the Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name, but that's another example of that, which I think is dumb that people even care. Like, it's weird. Like, it's like not a big deal. But anyways,
also, that guy's like a really good offensive lineman still.
Yeah, that was really good for. Was it the Dolphins that got him? I can't remember.
The Texans, and then he got traded to the Dolphins, or he got signed, but I don't remember how he got to the Dolphins.
It's been a while now. But yeah, love the Byron Murphy pick. I think it's really cool as well that he's a Seahawks fan growing up. So yeah, that's definitely exciting. And then you talked about him a little bit earlier, but Christian Haynes, rather. A lot of people had like second round hype on this guy. Like many people had him as the best pure right guard in this draft, which is probably where he's probably going to be the starter day one on that.
Right.
And just really good all-around player. I'm not an offensive line specialist. I'm not going to pretend to be, but everything I've seen from him is awesome. He was pissing off Jordan Jefferson, who got drafted really high in this draft, in the Senior Bowl so much that Jordan Jefferson like ripped his helmet off in anger, which is... I think if you're pissing off defensive linemen, that means you're doing a really good job as a O lineman. So
yeah,
like the confidence that he said he's a mover. And yeah, I just think, we might have secured a right guard for 5-10 years.
And his play style is the exact type of player we need on our line of scrimmage to be recognized as a physical team.
I'm so sick of getting our ass kicked
Yeah.
on the offensive line. It's been years where you're just watching like Phil Haynes just get blown up or Damian Lewis just get owned. Like oh my God, I'm so sick of it.
We play like a finesse team, but we can't finesse anyone.
So yeah, I just think these first two picks just scream like we're trying to get a new attitude in here that just like we're gonna physically dominate you. And
Yeah.
that's the way I want to win. I don't care how the stats turn out, really. I just want these wins. So yeah, love it. And quick note before we move on. To get two immediate starters with your first two picks that aren't exactly high draft picks that I think could be very good starters year one, that already gives this draft a really high grade, in my opinion. So on to the next pick. This is one that at least a lot of people in the media and the draft world thought was a pretty big reach in linebacker Tyrese Knight out of UTEP. I don't know a whole lot about this guy. I didn't really hear his name at all. There are some people out there that really like him, and he's a good athlete. So my thought with him is that he's going to be a backup for a year or two behind the guys we signed this offseason. Hopefully, he can develop into a starter, but not a whole lot to say about him. Definitely the strangest pick, I would say, because I thought here it would be Jeremiah Trotter for sure, but
Yeah, I also kind of thought it was an interesting pick just because, like, you think UTEP and you think of their competition. They're not exactly playing other NFL players on the opposite side of the ball.
yeah, they
Like-
lose to Michigan like 58-0.
Yeah, so it was overall a little bit strange of a pick, but I don't know. It could be one of those project picks where they turn into something you and I couldn't have seen, but of course John Schneider could. So
And it's not like we used a second round pick on him. I mean, we're talking about the 118th overall pick here in the fourth round. So it's not a huge deal to me. Hopefully he can learn under McDonald and become a good linebacker for us. Our next pick, AJ Barner. So some people didn't like this pick too. I actually really like this pick because he is an awesome blocker, and he's got the mentality of a winner for sure. If you've listened to any interviews with him or whatever, he's a national champion from Michigan.
yeah.
I think he's functionally going to be our Will Dissly replacement. It remains to be seen if he has the receiving chops that Will Dissly had, but I don't know.
I've kind of never cared about receiving ability in a Seahawk offense, personally.
Tight ends.
Yeah, I've always thought it was the blocking that was what we thrived at.
Well, and we already got Noah Fant, too, who's like a really good receiving tight end. So
Right.
I think that this fills a need. This guy's going to get a good amount of playing time this year. And the one knock on him is he's only 250 pounds. So he'll probably have to put on 10 pounds or so. But NFL trainers usually don't have a hard time doing that. Like, I mean, look what happened to Colby Parkinson. He was like kind of a twig when we drafted him, and then after 2 years of working with our trainers, he's a monster.
Yeah, we
now.
were like,
Yeah, that was an experience meeting that guy. But yeah, what do you think of AJ Barner?
I really like the pick. What I find so annoying is like when the Seahawks post their picks on Instagram or whatever, and then everyone in the comments is like whining about how we didn't do this or like get a receiver or something. And it's like, first of all, you guys are like, you make all of us look bad because of your whining.
We need to ban 13-year-olds from Instagram.
Yeah, and people being like, we should have drafted Cade Stover. It's like, AJ Barner, like you were saying, the Will Dissly replacement. He's exactly what we lost and needed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm at a loss for words as far as what other of the 12s think we need, because I pretty much can look down this list of players and say we drafted not out of need, but we checkmarked all of our needs.
Mm-hmm. And one thing to note real quick, besides Tyrese Knight, I don't think there was a single pick we made, besides I guess Michael Jarrell too, that was like a pick we did way earlier than they were projected to go. Like most of these picks were kind of a steal relative, just for the relative value where we got them in the draft. And AJ Barner, yeah, I mean, he was like a mid to early 4th round projection by a lot of places, and that's where we got him. So good pick. Not much else to say about it. Moving on to Nehemiah Pritchett out of Auburn. This is a guy that a lot of people were tagging as a sleeper, like 3rd, 4th round kind of guy. So just based off that alone, it's good value to get him in the 5th here. I didn't exactly think we needed a corner in this draft, and as we'll get to a little bit later, the fact that we got 2 has me a little concerned for a guy named Tariq Woolen. Reek Woolen.
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe they got a plan here. Maybe some guys are moving to safety. I don't know. This is a defense that we haven't seen before. It's a new system and a new coach. But I like the player a lot. He's seems to be just really solid all around. Outside corner, not exactly a nickel guy, but good height at like 6 foot ish and good speed. I think he ran a 4.3 at the combine. So, yeah, what do you think of the pick?
Like you, I was kind of shocked that we took another corner, but then I kind of really thought about our corner situation, and it's Trey Brown, Devin Witherspoon, who obviously isn't going anywhere.
Hopefully ever.
Yeah, and Tariq Woolen, and those are the 3 guys that pop. Is Artie Burns still on the team?
I don't know. We just tendered or re-signed Mike Jackson, so I know he'll be around.
Okay, yeah. So I just look at the 4 of those guys, and Tariq Woolen's in a prove-it year. Like, he has to be. He was a liability on our defense last year, so there's no reason why he should be a starter day one unless he's earned it. And Devin Witherspoon, like I said, he's just different. Like, you look at him play, and he's probably going to be a captain of this defense, if not next season, the season following or thereafter. Mm-hmm. But Trey Brown, I heard someone say the other day that he is a nickel corner that really wants to play the outside, and I thought I don't know as a football analyst what it takes to find that, but just as far as the eye test goes, I kind of know what they mean. Like, he's not a big guy.
No, he's like 5'10", like 1.8. I mean, I think he's around the same size as Devin Witherspoon, but Witherspoon's a freak.
Yeah, and if I'm correct, I'm actually asking, did we play him a lot on the outside, Trey Brown, or was he a lot of a nickel?
He's mostly played nickel. His rookie year, he played a fair amount of outside. Like, do you remember? I don't know. I wouldn't blame you if you don't remember this, but in 2021, he like stood up. I think Deontay Johnson on the Steelers to like force a punt that like got us a chance to get back into that game. I don't blame you if you don't remember.
No,
that.
I do not remember that.
But yeah, he's played outside and in our defense, and I think he's been pretty good wherever he's gone. But he, the play that he got injured in I believe 2022, he just like did a egregious pass interference and hurt himself on the same play. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely like, he got a pick 6 last year playing nickel, I'm pretty sure, because Witherspoon was against Detroit. Witherspoon was starting his first game outside as the left corner.
Overall, I guess the fact that Tariq Woolen is not like living up to what we all had his expectations at, I think that's maybe making them worried that something that was, I guess, our strong suit as a team is now going to be damn near down by the bottom. Because if we thought Tariq Woolen was going to be a Pro Bowl type player after his rookie year, and now he's maybe not even starter worthy, I see why they drafted 2 corners, because it's like you're trying to overcorrect for something that you thought was going to be part of your strong point as a team.
I think first things first, he has to change his name back to Tariq, because Reek is stupid. And Reek was bad at football. Tariq was really good at football.
And why would you want to change your name to Reek after we all watched Game of Thrones? Like, why would you want to be like, yeah, can I change my name to that guy that got tortured and
got his penis cut off?
Yeah, got castrated.
These are fair questions. I don't think anyone else is asking that. So,
yeah,
what's going on, Tariq?
But on that note too, I also like the fact that him and the other corner we drafted both went to Auburn. They
Yeah,
obviously
teammates.
have a a relationship there that is probably just going to get stronger, and they're probably going to give each other confidence, as we've seen in years past on like Hard Knocks or whatever, when two rookies come in and they're like become best friends, and then one of them gets cut and it's like sad because it's like a reality TV show. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully they both make the team. And
I think they will because I guess if we're just going to tag team these position pairs that we did in the last 2 rounds here, or 3 rounds, DJ James also out of Auburn, as you mentioned. Some people had him, like he fell about 3 rounds from a lot of people's projections. He's a really good player at Auburn, and he is more of the nickel body type. So I think that's why he fell, is just the guy needed to eat a few more cheeseburgers and get up into the 180s because he weighed in at like 172 or something like that, which is very light for an NFL player. But, Devin Witherspoon really showed last year, I think, that number doesn't necessarily dictate what kind of player you can be and all that stuff. But, yeah, another really promising corner prospect, and it makes that position group really, really, really strong. And, hey, best case scenario, these guys push Tariq Woolen to be more how he was in 2022, and maybe they can teach him how to tackle. So I like it. I don't know what the long-term plan is here, but I think having a bunch of really good, exciting young players at one of the most important position groups, period, in football is never a bad thing.
Also, I feel like maybe Pete Carroll's style of having tall, lanky corners made me kind of think small corners were like obsolete. And then we draft Devin Witherspoon, and he hits harder than like as hard as Cam Chancellor. So now I'm like looking at these two corners like, ooh, maybe we got another Devin Witherspoon-esque hard-hitting player or something like that. So it's definitely made me like 180 my perspective on what I think a corner should be.
I think part of it is too, like, the game has changed so much, especially with some of the rule changes that happened after, Sherman and Browner and all that, where you have these slot guys like Cooper Kupp, Amon-Ra St. Brown, to name a few, or just you have your number one receiver playing the slot, and like if you don't have a good sticky man cover corner that's usually a smaller body type to have that sudden change of direction, you're fucked. You're just gonna get torn apart on those like over routes over and over again. No pun intended. And so it's not a big deal to me anymore how tall a corner is, for sure.
Yeah, I used to think it was like 2 on my list of things that were important.
Yeah, it's crazy what a guy like Richard Sherman can do to the entire league's perception of that position.
Yeah.
Like before him and I guess after him, like there really weren't a lot of like super tall corners. Most of them were about Witherspoon sized when we were growing up. So I liked the approach there once I had more time to think about it. And then our 6th round pick, I guess the big boys we got in the 6th round, and Satoa Laumea and Michael Jarrell. I like Laumea a lot, and Brock Heward is a huge fan of him, which I'm dumb, and that makes me a fan of him too, because I don't know shit about offensive linemen other than the eye test. I mean, they don't get stats other than sacks allowed. So to me, like when I watch a guy just bowl people over and like play with a lot of ferocity, like you remember Breno Giacomini? Guy got a lot of fucking holding penalties that called back big plays, and it was annoying, but he played with attitude out there. Like he wanted to kill people, and that's my favorite
he was a
trait.
vicious style type of blocker.
Yeah, that's someone said the reason why Abraham Lucas is a really good offensive lineman is because he's MAGA, which because I guess he's like a big Republican, and I thought that was so funny because it like almost makes sense in a way. But
just a big jerk.
Yeah, that's you don't want a nice guy that you like want to hang out with and get a beer with on the offensive line. I mean, maybe you do. I want the biggest asshole on the field that's just trying to hurt everybody.
Yeah,
because that's that's what you don't want to go up against. We're not making friends here. We're trying to win games. And then I know nothing about Michael Jarrell. I don't think anyone knows anything about Michael Jarrell because he played for Finlay.
I thought
What is that?
I thought that meant like, does Europe have a team that I don't know about?
Yeah, so the only thing I know about Michael Jarrell is that his testing numbers were like off the chart, like top 80 of anyone that's done the testing in the last like 30 years or something. So he's a really good athlete, but it's like, dude, he was playing against guys that are going to be selling cars this fall. And so he's got a lot to learn to play against top of the top and NFL competition. But hey, it's another offensive tackle that could maybe play guard. It's good to have more depth. Guys like Stone Forsythe are pretty much the only young depth we have, and I don't think he's a terrible player, but I think we've seen.
I think he's solid.
Yeah,
I've seen good things from him when I thought I should have seen horrible things, but he's solid. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good to have more guys like that. So overall, I would give the draft a B plus. Almost A minus. Fuck it. I'll give it A minus. I'm gonna be an optimist. And the number one reason for it is we got the beef. We got the big boys that I think this team has been missing for years, and that we weren't gonna get in free agency. So,
I got a question for you real quick before I give my grade. What would you have done or what would you grade them? I guess, or how would have you reacted if they had traded up for Penix at 8? And we had a quarterback instead of a defensive tackle.
I would have given it like a B minus, to be honest. Because I like Penix a lot, but I think it's just absolutely ignoring we needed a premium.
It would have been like
big boy.
It would have been like what the Falcon. It would have been like a baby version of what the Falcons did because we traded capital for Sam Howell and then we draft up and get Penix. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and we also have Geno.
Yeah, I am perfectly happy with our quarterback situation for the next year or two. There's not a lot of prospects that excite me about next year's quarterback class, especially. I'd rather have Sam Howell than Shedeur Sanders. If he
next coming draft class.
Yeah, if he's gonna be the number one guy, that's a lot like how 2022's was. Which granted, he was in that class, but you saw my mock draft. I never thought Sam Howell was gonna be a 5th rounder.
No.
So. That still doesn't make sense to me, frankly. But if nothing else, he can sit behind Geno and just be one of the better backups in the league. I think Geno gets a lot of undue hate. He was playing behind a horrible, probably the worst line in the league last year when both our tackles were out. So I think we're pretty set. I don't know what post-draft the ceiling is for this team, but I think overall, the Seahawks are being really slept on right now. I see a lot of people mocking them as the 10th worst team in the league this next year, and I don't see that at all.
As in we're 22nd best?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that at all either. A lot of people are just giving the Cardinals a bunch of praise now because Kyler Murray's coming back.
And they got Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay, what else do you have?
Yeah, I'm not sold on the Cardinals, and the other day, I hear a lot about debate about NFC West and who are the best quarterbacks. And I mean, quite frankly, if you think about Geno Smith and Kyler Murray, Kyler Murray can maybe do more as an athlete and as a quarterback. He can maybe make more of the Russell Wilson Houdini-esque plays, but I think Geno Smith has pretty much proven he's, a more productive player and reliable player than Kyler Murray.
And he can see the middle of the field.
Yeah, and he can stay on the field. Geno Smith.
That's a really good point.
Geno Smith did go down, for a couple weeks last year, but I mean, for the most part, he still had a pretty solid season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely a step backwards from the 2022 season where, I mean, you can look and compare the numbers. Geno's numbers in 2022 were almost identical to Brock Purdy's last year. Brock Purdy did it on a lot less attempts. So granted, he had a better season, but the counting stats are virtually identical. Both had 69% completion percentage, 4,200 yards, and 30 touchdowns to less than 10 picks or so, something like that. So I feel like people forget he played really fucking good in 2022 when we didn't have both our offensive tackles injured for weeks. So that player is still there. If he plays like that bad stretch in 2023 for a significant amount of games, like I do think Geno still needs to prove it. I'm not going to just let him. It's not like when we had like peak Russell Wilson, you know, I don't think it's exactly like that. But he's not a bad quarterback.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to is like, I trust Geno, but there are, like, for example, last year I kind of thought he was still in his prove it year, and we made the playoffs previous year. We didn't make the playoffs last year. So it's like, did he fail? Kind of, but not really, because we were in it until almost the very end.
Well, I just think about how Geno played against the Cowboys last year. That was an incredible quarterbacking performance. He had to throw 3 touchdowns at the end of that half to get 1 to count, if you remember.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy.
Why do you choose to remember all these horrible, heart-wrenching
I don't know.
Seahawks moments,
I wish my brain would remember important things that I need to know for work and shit, but it chooses to remember every Seahawks game I watch. It's a curse, but it's good for this podcast. But anyways, yeah, I think if Geno can find consistency with that, the good Geno, we got a really good quarterback. If he plays like how he did against like the Bengals last year, I might be asking for Sam Howell by week 8. We'll see.
Geno's got to play with good genes. How about that? Is that
Oh,
the
wow.
promise we're gonna make?
But yeah, that's a wrap on the draft. Rookie minicamp is already in the books, and not a whole lot to say about it. I have learned at this point, after many years of watching football, to not really give a shit when it's just shorts and helmets. You can try to make storylines out of it if you want. They're all going to be boring.
Ryan, you want to tell the people about how you almost landed Lad McConkey? And
Hey, I got him in our other league, so
yeah, I kind of run that league, so it doesn't really matter.
whatever. But hey, Rashee Rice has decided to just destroy his career. So the fact that I got Xavier Worthy, it's a nice consolation prize, I would say.
Yeah, Rashee Rice, what was it? He punched someone at a club 2 nights ago
Yeah,
or
a
something?
photographer after he got in like a wreck and
Yeah,
left
they're
the
like,
scene.
all right, please do not get in trouble. Don't just stay home. And he's like, okay. And then
Oh shit! Are you serious?
yeah,
Yeah, you didn't hear about that?
No, I
Rashee Rice might there's a decent chance he's gonna be
Rashee
out of the
Rice.
league.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So yeah, that's God. It's always hard when you give some 21-year-old that's been praised their whole life for their talents just a shitload of money and fame. Like, some of them can handle it, some of them cannot.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, hopefully, I'm honestly, kind of glad because I don't want the Chiefs to three-peat. So
I know.
whatever advantage we can get on them for them not to fucking win another goddamn Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty sick of them.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the Bills trading their kryptonite, Xavier Worthy.
Oh, I didn't even realize they did that because they had the 28th pick, didn't they?
Yeah, the Bills traded Xavier Worthy, or traded the pick to Kansas City. They moved up in the draft. And then the Bills, they drafted Keon Coleman. I don't really know yet. It remains to be seen if he's an NFL-type player, but his interviews are pretty damn funny.
Keon Coleman?
Yeah.
Dude, have you heard Xavier Leggette's interviews?
That's
Yeah.
who I ended up getting.
Oh, okay. I don't know how good he's going to be, but that guy's the funniest fucking voice.
Really?
Dude, he sounds like a cartoon character.
I want him and Keon Coleman to have a conversation together.
Yeah, well, I think Keon Coleman, the fact that he's going to be catching passes from Josh Allen is a good thing because he's not going to get a ton of separation, but he's a really good contested catch guy.
Right.
So it's good he's going to an accurate quarterback. But we'll see how that turns out for them. I don't know why they felt the need to trade down twice or whatever they did.
Yeah, I don't know. It was overall weird. I mainly just think it would be an issue because you're helping the team that keeps eliminating you from the playoffs get the exact guy they want.
Yeah, you're helping your arch rival, basically, that's ruined the last 3 playoff runs you've had. I don't know.
God, I want fucking Josh Allen to beat the Chiefs. Like,
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, you got anything else for this episode?
No, that's pretty much all I got.
We're gonna have to think of some stuff to talk about in the off season now. We're in the dreaded slow months, but we'll come up with some ideas.
We can
Maybe
talk
we'll
about
talk more Mariners. They're not doing too bad so far.
They're doing pretty decent. I was gonna say we could also talk about some trades we all made in fantasy, and we could talk about some trades you made in the past and analyze those trades.
I don't think we need to talk about that. The people don't need to hear it.
Okay.
They already know I'm gonna win both leagues.
Well,
this
they
year.
need the standard to be set, so they need to know.
you know, it'd be a funny thing is to call in people in the fantasy league live on the podcast and like try to make trades. Like, you know how people like take calls?
Yeah.
Hit up Jaron, try and trade him Clayton Tune for Brock
Yeah,
Purdy.
like maybe you just call
Huh?
someone just as like just
Rocky?
to make a stupid joke of like and just get the
We will see. But thanks for listening, everybody. Good to be back, and we got more Seattle sports news coming at you this summer.
Yes. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.